If this door doesn't open, we're gonna come in. 1, 2, 3.
We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we're talking about a video that a bunch of people want us to comment on. It's a little creepy. It has to do with some pranks that are a little horrifying. How does this relate to Castle Doctrine? Would a use of force, deadly force, be authorized under the circumstances? Ultimately, you'll want to see these clips for yourself. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button. And if you're not already, join us over on armedattorneys.com. Join the Armed Attorneys Insider newsletter. We send out very few emails, but it's really just for breaking news stuff. We're getting hit with a lot of questions and don't have time to film a video, so you stay in the loop. So check us out, armedattorneys.com. And I think the best way to start all this is with one of our first creepy clips.
Specifically, they said if you do not come out, we will come in. And also threatened to do bodily harm to their family, stating that they would ultimately kill them.
So this was in Alexandria, Virginia. It's close to DC. This was on October the 14th. So we're a couple of weeks away from Halloween. But
yeah, we thought we would get in the Halloween spirit with some kind of really creepy videos.
Yeah, and so, I mean, it begs the question, and we have a couple more clips for y'all. Does Castle Doctrine apply to this particular set of circumstances?
Yeah. You know what I get told all the time, and I'm sure you hear the same thing, Richard, is that the Castle Doctrine gives you the right to have a gun in your home or your car. That's what I get told all the time.
Well, it's interesting because what it really relates to most of the time, and every state's a little bit different, but for the most part, when we talk about Castle Doctrine, what we're talking about is, do you have a higher legal right of self-defense? And so it applies when, typically, and we'll talk about the conditions that apply, most states have a baseline level of self-defense, reasonable, immediately necessary in response to a certain level of threat. You can respond that way. That's when we talk about ordinary self-defense or defense of others. Now, Castle Doctrine sometimes, and this is how it plays out in most states, adds a presumption of reasonableness, that your use of force or deadly force was reasonable and immediately necessary because, hey, guess what? We're inside of our house. We should feel extra safe there, not be worried about hoodlums. What are some of the baseline conditions that have to be met virtually anywhere for Castle Doctrine to be met?
Yeah, so typically you have to be in your occupied home, vehicle, or place of business. And as Richard said, it's a presumption. So it's a legal presumption. So it's a presumption that you get to use in a courtroom. So it's not a bar to prosecution, not a bar to being arrested. Doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. But, really when the Castle Doctrine applies is when it comes to a jury charge. And so the judge in the jury charge basically tells the jury that your use of force was actually reasonable because you are in your occupied home, vehicle, or place of business. This video specifically, obviously it's at a home and there were people inside. So it is a occupied home. Especially here in Texas, the Castle Doctrine would apply. But the individuals, the wrongdoers here aren't actually in the home yet. So when does the Castle Doctrine start? Does the person have to be in the home? Can they be outside of your home trying to break in?
Yeah, so I think the way to think about this is, so occupied habitation. The next kind of condition that needs to be met is an attempted or actual forceful and unlawful entry into the habitation. So we know what an actual entry looks like.
Right.
They kick down the door, run inside, or even, when we talk about forceful, that could be turning a doorknob and opening an unlocked door. Now, if the door was wide open and they just walked inside, that's probably not going to be a forceful and unlawful entry. Now, maybe there is this state that says, hey, guess what? You break this imaginary invisible barrier. That's what they consider breaking. That's just not what we see in most states. But now the other kind of part of this is attempted forceful and unlawful entry. So do you have to let them complete the entry before Castle Doctrine, potentially jumps in?
Yeah, that's a good question. You have to be able to articulate that this person was trying to break into your home. You have to make it clear to police, a jury, a judge, what have you, that their end goal was to break into your home. So, it's not the UPS driver who's knocking on your door saying, hey, I have to get a signature for you to sign. People are allowed to knock on your door. That's, universally how we let someone know that we're at their door. So Yeah, I mean, I think it would be kind of up to a judge or jury to determine each specific set of facts on whether this was enough to show that that person is actually trying to come into your home
Yeah,
or
here,
not.
well, let's look at this clip, and I'm interested
Yeah.
to see what you folks have to say. Is this an attempted entry?
Open the door! Open the door!
So in the clip we just saw, I mean, he's
Yeah.
rattling the doorknob, trying to, he's trying to
Absolutely.
open it. Is that an attempted entry?
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, if someone's saying, open the door, open the door, open the door, and they're standing there and they're rattling the door and they're clearly trying to open the door, I think they're attempting to come into your home. I would feel as though they were trying to come into my home. That's for sure.
Now, and this is why each of these cases, and you hate the lawyer answer of, well,
Right.
it depends. The fact that this wasn't on Halloween night, a night where people are dressed up as, horror movie characters, this was a couple of weeks before, does that make a difference?
I don't know. It makes it more scary to me. I mean, in Texas, there's no specific law that says, oh, well, if someone's dressed in a costume, then, the Castle Doctrine applies faster or you get to use force. But I mean, I don't know. I would have a hard time thinking that a jury wouldn't look at that and say, wow, this is really scary. These people obviously are covering their faces. So, if they were trying to break in, you can't tell who they are, which makes me think more that they probably were burglars trying to conceal their identity. And then, I mean, I think everyone's seen the movie The Strangers, and this is very much like that movie where they torment the family and then ultimately, it doesn't turn out well for that family.
Kind of like The Purge also.
Yeah, very much Purge vibes. My husband loves that movie and makes us watch it all the time, and it's horrifying.
Does that have rewatchability? That movie?
Oh, if you ask my husband, it does. He loves them.
Okay.
But I mean, I think this is very scary. This is more scary to me than just someone coming to your door and being like, "Hey, let me in, let me in." The fact that they're in costumes that are scary, I don't know. I think it adds an extra layer.
Well, and we've seen a bunch of scenarios where people fake being delivery drivers
Absolutely.
just to finagle their way into gaining entry into the habitation. So to this, is this an attempted entry? Well, I mean, ultimately it's a jury question. I see some good facts for yes. I see some, hey, maybe not so much. And we got a recent update to this story. But the question that we get is like, can I shoot a person through the door? Yeah. And there are some scenarios, like I've had a client who's out in the middle of nowhere. He had a mile-long driveway. He hears like one of his automatic lights, motion detector lights goes off in his driveway. He looks out the window. He sees 3 black SUVs backed up to his front porch. He's all there by himself. And there's people starting to gather on his front porch, and he can tell they have weapons. If they started to reach for the door handle, I would have, obviously keep yourself safe, right? So you can have one real extreme example, but on the other side of this, I mean, it could be a Girl Scout selling cookies. You don't just want to go blasting through the door or whatever. So, I mean, you really need to be very careful about this.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I thought that is the question that we always get is, can I shoot through the door? I don't know. I mean, I think this is a situation where had they shot through the door, I don't know. I could have seen it going both ways with the jury. I mean, I definitely think that they had an argument to make that these people were trying to break into their home and they were definitely trying to cause them harm. They were very aggressive. They're making threats to them. I mean, the one guy in a video is like doing the symbol saying that he's going to, off them essentially. So, I mean, they're making threats. I don't know.
Yeah. So the other part of this is, okay, maybe Castle Doctrine is implicated. Let's say, argument's sake, jury says, yes, this was an attempted forceful and unlawful entry. They, use deadly force, let's say through a doorway. We'll just keep our facts the same. Presumption of reasonableness. Now, is a presumption of reasonableness a get out of jail free card?
No, it is not. So you get the presumption that your use of force was reasonable, and then the state would have to prove that your use of force was not reasonable, essentially, which is still what they have to do in Texas anytime you bring up self-defense. So, if we bring up self-defense as the defense, then the state has to prove that it was not self-defense. They would also have to prove that your use of force was not reasonable. So again, Girl Scout, let's say the Girl Scout's on your front door and she's for some reason trying to open your door.
Take the Thin Mints.
You will buy the cookies.
Yeah.
And you were to shoot through the door in that situation, could the state prove that your use of force was not reasonable? Potentially.
Yeah, the chances of going to prison over Girl Scout use of force, very high. I'm just going to say that.
Absolutely. Again, very extreme example, but it kind of proves the point.
Yeah. Now, the update that
yeah.
we got recently, and I saw this was from a local Fox affiliate, they said that the Alexandria, Virginia, whoever was investigating this, they spent over 100 hours trying to track down this trio. And ultimately, they found out these were relatives of the folks who live there. Now, when we're looking at a self-defense claim, there's kind of two things to it, objective reasonableness, subjective reasonableness. It's what's in the mind of the actor, the defender at the time that they use force or deadly force. So they don't have all this specialized knowledge at the time. They don't know these are their relatives. They don't know they're being pranked.
Also, horrible prank.
Yeah, horrible prank.
Awful prank.
Yeah. What qualifies as pranks
No,
sometimes
not funny.
Not funny. But I guess the question is, should these guys be charged? I mean, they wasted a lot of taxpayer money, so I kind of know where my bet is, but is this something that, was this criminal?
I think so. I think it was criminal. I mean, in my opinion, I think this is something that they should pursue charges on. Now, obviously, they have to have a victim in these types of cases. So does the homeowner who was their family member want to pursue charges against their family member? I guess that's up to them to say. But I mean, if it weren't family member on family member, I mean, I definitely think that what they did was illegal.
Yeah, most states have like a causing public alarm charge or a terroristic threat charge or some kind of disorderly conduct. This is in a public space. So, I mean, you could probably, I can't imagine.
Or at least trespassing.
Yeah, I can't imagine that this isn't a crime in all 50 states.
Yeah, I would think so. Very scary. Not a funny prank at all. Okay. So next question I always get about these kinds of situations is, what if you shoot them outside? Are you supposed to drag the body back in?
Bad advice. No, when the physical evidence does not line up with, where the person is located, that really undermines a self-defense case. That's one of those things. Any self-defense case, assuming the scene is safe, threat stopped. Don't go moving stuff around because, and this is the argument that prosecutors make, hey, look, if this was such a clean self-defense case, if you were truly justified, why'd you have to go and stage the area? Not a good idea.
Yeah. Also, tampering with evidence can be another
more
crime.
charges. That's no good. So, because that comes up. Maybe they say, hey, guess what? The shooting was justified, but then you went and tampered with things.
Right.
You don't want to find yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
But we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video. And don't forget to question and comment in the section down below. And until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.